everyone, it's Michelle from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And I know my background's a little bit different. I already recorded a YouTube video today and I've been in my office a ton now that my kids are back at school. And to be honest, I just needed a little change of venue. So we're in my dining room, the kitchen is behind me. There's some like random flowers and stuff in the background because my birthday was last week and my wedding anniversary is tomorrow. So just ignore it. I didn't feel like cleaning up before hitting record, but this is going to be one of those more casual videos, and it's probably going to be on the shorter side because while I'm going to answer probably the most common question that I've been getting lately, I have additional trainings and videos and podcast episodes and resources about every single thing I'm going to talk about today. So instead of making like a 90-minute video, I'm just going to link all of those additional resources below. So if any of the topics that I talk about today jumps out at you or you want to dig a little bit deeper on it, head to the video description because I have all of those additional resources for every single thing that I'm going to talk about in this video there. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It helps so much and it makes sure that you never miss a tip. So in this video, again, I mentioned that I was going to be answering one of the most common questions that I get, whether it's in my Instagram DMs or on a webinar or in my group. And that question is, what would I do differently if I were starting all over again in my indoor playground business ownership journey? What would I do different? And again, if you want to learn more or hear my thoughts about any of these topics in more detail, again, I'm going to link to all of that in the description of this video. But the first thing, and I've talked about this so many times, so I apologize if you're sick of me talking about it or hearing about it, but it's so, so important and it's so, so true. And that is, I would find cheaper rent. So a lot of people will always ask me, God, what's the biggest mistake you made? Or what do you think prevented you from reaching success a lot faster? And that would be the lease that I signed. Now, again, I've talked about this in previous videos. I take full responsibility for really not diving as deep as I should have into the lease that I signed. I take complete responsibility for completely overestimating the importance of street visibility on the success of my business. So again, something I talk about a lot is that the premium that you're going to pay to be on a main road or to be in a super affluent town is not going to give you the return on investment that you expect when you have an indoor playground or similar business, because your business is going to become a destination. And trust me, I've seen it time and time again. I work behind the scenes of hundreds of indoor playgrounds and play-based businesses. And almost every single time when somebody is in a more rural area or decides to open in a town over from their ideal town, simply because the rent is cheaper, their success is not impacted at all. And I have an even better example of this when a lot of my students go to open their second location. They'll say, you know what, we ended up not listening and we ended up opening our first location in that ideal town, wherever it was. But you know what, our second location, we're going to move, 2 towns over where the rent is much cheaper, which is exactly what we did with the second location. And I'm telling you, your business is going to be a destination. You do not need to pay for increased street visibility or to be on a main road. You do not need to pay to be in your absolute ideal town just because your ideal customer lives there. They will travel. I mean, how many times have you as a parent driven by a place, thought it was cute, and then just stopped it? Like dropped what you were doing for the day, canceled your plans, disregarded nap time, meal time, whatever the case may be, and just pulled in and visited a place for open play or booked a party? Probably zero, if I had to guess, especially if you have little kids. So I promise you, your web presence, your online presence, all of that stuff is going to be is going to determine your success in a much bigger way than the actual location of your business. Now, there are so many nuances with locations and leases and things like that. And of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but in my situation and in most of the situations that I see in Playmaker Society, cheap rent is an absolute necessity. And it's going to be rent. I'm speaking of rent is going to be one of the biggest costs in your business. So you really want to take it seriously. And I don't care if it takes 2 years to find the perfect space that marries your, preferred location, or is at least, 20, 30 miles within your ideal location and marries it to your budget. It's going to be worth it, because if you sign a poor lease or if you overextend yourself on rent, it's going to cripple you every single turn of your business. It's going to prevent you from paying yourself what you deserve, which is going to cause you to resent your business, and it's going to cause burnout, and it's not going to allow you to hire good people or retain employees or pay them what they're worth, which is going to just make your business an absolute disaster. So I'm telling you, take the rent factor seriously. And if I could go back, I would wait. I would be a little bit more patient, and I would find that perfect location with rent that I could afford. And I would pay a lot more attention to that. Now, that ties into the second thing. I would go back. And again, I have an entire video about this linked below, but I would have a lot more patience when it comes to location in general. So I was really excited. I wanted to jump the gun. I could not wait to open my business. So instead of waiting for the perfect location that checked all of my boxes and that I could afford realistically, instead I fudged my business plan and I found money in places so that I could afford the location. And again, it was 2 street visible. We were paying a premium on our rent for nothing. And I wish I would have just been a little bit more patient and kind of tempered my excitement a little bit and waited for that perfect location. I see this in a lot of situations, again, where people are really excited and they're really passionate about their business and they just cannot wait to reach opening day. So, not only with their location choices, but a lot of times they'll just breeze through a lot of the crucial key decisions that are going to determine if your business is going to be a success or if it's going to be a failure. So, things like business name, things like designing the website, things like putting together a marketing plan, things like learning from others who went before you, whether that's with my course or doing consulting with another owner. They breeze through all of these crucial steps in the opening process, or maybe they're not documenting their procedures. Maybe they're not putting together their employee handbook or their employee procedures, or maybe they're not putting a lot of thought into their job postings or designing their space. Because let me tell you, decision fatigue when you're opening a business like this is so real. And every single day, those like 3 months prior to opening, you're going to have 25 to 30 decisions to make per day. What chairs you want, what color to paint the walls, what kind of bathroom fixtures to have, how many toilets to have, if you should include child-sized toilets. There are so many teeny tiny decisions that you're going to get decision fatigue. And again, if I could go back, I would be a little bit more patient. I would extend the runway a lot more, and I would put a little bit more space between the lease signing and opening day, just to make sure I was really thinking through each of these decisions, because I ended up having to go back and do a ton of rework and fix a lot of things. And while that's never a bad thing, and we do want to do that the first few months in business anyways, I could have definitely saved myself a lot of extra money, a lot of frustration, a lot of tears, and a lot of lost employees had I been a little bit more patient and kind of just pumped the brakes a little bit. So, number one, I would have waited for the perfect location with cheaper rent so I could pay myself and my team members more and reinvest in my business more a lot faster. And then I would have a lot more patience. And then number three also kind of goes back to the opening process. I would do a much deeper background check, and not like a formal background check, but I would do a little bit more research about every single person that I worked with along the way. And I'm sorry, it's getting like all doomsday in here, which is actually kind of fitting for this topic. But there's like a thunderstorm rolling in. I'm doing my best. So sorry about the weird lighting, but I would really make sure that I vetted every single landlord, every single broker, every single bank, every single local business that I decided to either work with or better yet, sign a contract with. Because again, decision fatigue, you really want to believe when you're a new business owner that every single person is invested or is interested in your success. But Unfortunately, as you move along this journey, most times, people care about themselves and their businesses most, which is completely understandable. But again, as a young, naive, really optimistic entrepreneur with rose colored glasses on, I wanted to believe the best in everybody and that everybody had great intentions. And unfortunately, because I didn't do enough research, again, into every single person I worked with and partnered with and signed contracts with and used as teachers and employees. I wish I would have spent a lot more time making sure that the people I was aligning myself and my business with were worthy of that. And more important yet, not saying that anyone I worked with was a bad person, but I did definitely align myself with people whose values did not align with my own, whose expectations did not align with my own. And I got burned pretty badly several different times because of it. So be really careful with who you work with because it is going to be a reflection on you and a reflection on your business. And if something happens or you realize when it's too late that you've aligned yourself with somebody who your ideal customer is not going to resonate with, then you could be doing damage control for quite a while. So just be really careful and do as much research as possible into your landlord, into the location, into, again, any local businesses, any local contractors, anything like that that you're going to work with. Do your research and take your time and choose someone whose values and expectations, again, are similar to your own. All right, number 4, and this is something that I've also talked about a ton, especially on my podcast, and that is I would hire a full manager, someone that was technically full-time. She really only worked 32 hours a week, but that still was considered a full-time employee in New York State. I would hire a full-time manager a lot sooner. As you guys know, I ran myself into the ground and I burned out pretty quickly. And I also got pregnant unexpectedly pretty soon after we opened our first location. And this caused so much stress and chaos. And I was just so in the weeds in so many different facets of my business that I wasn't able to be a leader to my employees. I wasn't able to complete all of the tasks that they needed or that my business needed. I wasn't able to be the best mother I could have been. I wasn't able to be the best spouse or friend or daughter or sister that I could have been. And again, a lot of it comes down to not having patience and signing a lease that was way too expensive for me at the time. And a lot of that, when I said it cripples your business, it really does. And that was one of the reasons that we just didn't hire a manager right off the bat. I waited almost a full year and I really, really regret that. And it kind of pains me to think how much sooner I could have reached success and the point where I was, completely offloading and delegating the day-to-day operations of the business and everything I didn't want to do or didn't need to do. I wish I would have done it a lot faster. And again, I have all the resources about how to afford a manager, how to find the money in your budget, even if it's tight, how to find and hire a manager, how to train a manager, what to delegate to a manager. I have all that stuff on my podcast that is linked below, but I wish I would have done that a lot faster because it allowed my business to really scale quickly once I was only doing the stuff that I was best at and that I wanted to do because it expanded my creative energy, it expanded my physical energy. And when I felt like I was doing as best as possible in all areas of my life, it really just allowed me, again, to be the best leader, to be the best business owner, to be the best creative, to be the best person I could be. So again, I wish I would have hired a manager a lot faster. And then number 5, there's only 7, so we're almost there. Number 5, I wish I would have focused a lot sooner on what I like to call major revenue types. And major revenue types fall into one of 2 categories, either high ticket sales, meaning birthday parties, really anything over like $200. So not necessarily like a class booking or a camp booking, but any big ticket item. So in our case, that's mostly birthday parties or annual passes. Those are the 2 biggest ticket items that we sold. And then the other main revenue category is any recurring type of revenue. So class subscriptions and memberships were the main recurring revenue sources in our indoor playground. Now, at the beginning, I was so hyper focused on open play and making sure I had at least 25 customers in the door and that every single one of them bought a coffee and that I was just constantly pounding the pavement and posting in mom's groups and posting on my page and going live on Instagram and making sure to fill our open play spots for the day when I should have been booking up our birthday calendar and filling up our membership spots. Once I did that, and once I changed that mindset to stop scraping for every $5, $10, $15 transaction, and instead focusing on those two major revenue types, everything changed. And then I slowly realized that, hey, if we can have 100 members at any given time, and as long as we can do 4 birthday parties a week, we don't even need to do open play if we don't want to. We, at probably about a year in business, we really started treating open play as simply an audition for birthday parties and memberships. And I just stopped caring. I stopped giving energy. I stopped giving attention to those teeny tiny transactions that really were a drop in the bucket to our revenue needs as a business. And again, once I did that, and once I allocated all of my creative time and energy and resources to big ticket and recurring revenue sources, everything changed. Our business exploded. I was able to pay myself way more. I was able to hire employees without even thinking about it. I was able to invest in training and new tools and new play structures. And it was just amazing. So I wish I would have stopped worrying and fighting for those tiny piecemeal transactions that were never going to scale my business. So wish I would have done that a lot sooner. And then number 6, I wish I would have started really putting a lot of attention into documenting systems and creating an exit plan from day one. I knew I wanted to sell my business probably like 2 years in, but really when I think about it, I knew I wanted to sell my business at some point before I ever even opened. Because I remember I quit my corporate job to do this. And I remember, my husband looking at me and saying, is this really something you want to do forever? And I said, no, I don't want to do this forever. And that's the sentiment that most people share when they open this business is they want to own and operate it when their kids can enjoy it. So at the time I had an 8-month-old and I didn't know it yet, but I was about to get pregnant with our second. And I kind of told my husband, like, I want to do this for, let's say 5, maybe 10 years. But as soon as my kids age out of the play area, I know personally that I'm going to be ready for my next adventure, for my next business, to move on, maybe go back to the corporate world. At the time, I had no idea what my next steps were going to be, but I knew that I wanted to create this business for my family and for their legacy, and that I would be more than happy to quote unquote pass the torch to another local family, which is exactly what I did. However, I had it in my mind that, okay, our lease is 5 years. I want someone to transition as the new owner at the end of the lease. So the first couple years, I was thinking, oh, I don't need to worry about this until 3 or 4 years in at least. Well, that would turn out to be incorrect. And if you've ever worked on selling a business, especially a brick and mortar business, it can take 2, 3, 4 years to find an interested buyer that is qualified and then fully transition that business to the new owner. A lot of businesses on the marketplace right now have been listed, including indoor playgrounds, have been listed for just that 3, 4, 5 years. And a lot of times the reason that those businesses don't sell, again, I've talked about this in a ton of videos and podcasts, is because of lack of documentation, the fact that the owner is the complete source of knowledge and the complete source of execution and systems and things like that for the business. So when somebody goes to look at it and say, okay, how easily can I take over as owner? How seamlessly will this business transition to new ownership? And when the answer is not so easily, or not easily at all, or it's just impossible without spending tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds or thousands of hours, they're going to run the other way, because that's a really good indication that there's other issues with the business. Because if you don't document your systems, if you don't have every single process into a standard operating procedure, into a video, if you don't have all of that very much organized and very specifically organized, which is something I teach people to do in Play Cafe Academy and Playmakers Society, you will not be able to sell your business. And if you are going to be able to sell your business, it's going to be either at a loss or for a price that's much less than what it's worth. And you're going to take the L on it. So I don't know why I just said that. I've been watching TikTok too much, but I would have started creating an exit plan. And I'm going to, again, link the video to how to create an exit plan below this video, but I wish I would have done it a lot faster. And that also includes creating certain financial reports that are really hard to get retroactively, hiring the right people to make sure all the numbers are right in your business, all that good stuff. So, wish I would have done that a lot sooner. And then finally, and this one's kind of unrelated, but it's so significant to me, I would have asked for help in other areas of my life. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was really struggling, especially my first year in business, between balancing the cafe, being a new mom, being pregnant, being a wife, being a sister, being a daughter, being a friend, being a neighbor. And it was really difficult. And I remember beating myself up before bed every single day, thinking, oh, we got takeout again today, or my house is so dirty, or gosh, I forgot to fold the laundry again. And I wish I would have just asked for help. I would have hired a meal service or done HelloFresh or something like that, which we do now. I would have made sure I had money set aside to hire a house cleaner, or I would have asked my spouse, my husband, for more help. I admittedly did not vocalize my needs or my wants or anything like that in that department because I felt really guilty that this business was not only sucking up all of my time and energy, but it was also causing me to slack in other areas. And like I said, I felt a lot of guilt and shame about that, which seems to be very common, especially with women mom entrepreneurs. So I would ask for more help in meal planning. I would hire services. I would hire a cleaner. I would make sure that I was asking for babysitting services or potentially hiring childcare or even doing like a nanny share or something like that. But I let myself drown for far too long. And again, it just turned me into the worst version of myself in all regards. When I think if I would have just made a few simple delegation and outsourcing decisions in my personal life and in my business life, I think everything would have been a lot smoother. I think the relationship between, again, my husband and I, my kids and I, my parents and I, my siblings and I, my friends and I think that would have all gone a lot better, and not been put on hold for like an entire year had I just asked for help. Because one of the things I talk a lot about when you go into this business is that it's so important to have a support system, whether that's a personal support system or whether that's a group like my Playmaker Society membership, where over 200 indoor playground and play cafe owners support each other, bounce ideas off each other, share their wins, share their losses, ask for help, ask for templates, ask for resources, ask for additional training and tips. Whether, whatever that support system looks like, you will not survive in this business if you don't have some shoulder to, lean on or to cry on, or some source where you can just kind of take a load off and get that support that you need as a business owner, because it really is more difficult than you think to open a brick and mortar business, which I also talk about a lot, especially in that first year. So again, even if you're listening to this and thinking, well, my spouse isn't supportive, I don't really have parents that are in town, I don't have any neighbors or friends that could help me. Again, there are other ways to create that village around yourself to make sure that you're not drowning or you're not doing this alone and you're not going through this journey alone, because that's so important. So to wrap that up, I would ask for help much sooner. So just to recap real quick before we wrap up, I would find cheaper rent. I would have more patience in the opening process. I would do better background checks around who I associated with. I would hire a manager faster. I would focus on key revenue types, big ticket and recurring. I would document my systems and create an exit plan earlier. And I would ask for help in other areas of my life a lot sooner. So if you like this type of video and like the more personal, raw types of videos, please let me know in the comments. I'm really putting together my content plan for the fall and winter, and I want to put videos out there that you want to watch and that actually help you along your journey. So if this was helpful, if you like this type of video, please comment. Or if you have a video suggestion or a topic suggestion, please let me know, because again, this is for you. So let me know what you want to see, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. All right, have a great day, guys.